Welcome to St. Holy Girls College, a boarding school where no one is allowed to leave, at least, not alive. Many years ago in the city of Yenagoa, Bayelsa State, there lived a couple named Dapia and his beautiful wife Boma, the jewel of the masses. They were wealthy people who lived in a palace surrounded by tall fence like a roko tree and guarded by very big dogs the size of a tiger. They had heavy security with scary faces and tough bodies like that of bouncers. The couple had two beautiful daughters, Joy and Rejoice, who were spoiled rebellious children. Dapia and Boma were the perfect power couple people admired, and young women even looked up to them as role models. They owned several estates, schools, orphanages, and hospitals. They were known for their kind hearts and compassionate service they rendered in the city. The couple owned several NGOs and women empowerment organizations that had trained thousands of youth and women in schools and vocational training centers. They were like celebrities in Bayelsa State, and people loved them. Whenever they went out, cameramen and TV stations would follow them up and down trying to capture each moment with them. They were like the local Beyoncé and Jay-Z. They went almost everywhere together, holding each other's hands sweetly for the camera. And every Sunday, the couple and their two children would go to church and worship and praise passionately and devotedly, lifting their holy hands in worship. But every good deeds they were doing was for show for the camera, for public opinion. Their lives, within the tall fence they built around themselves, was far from perfect. They were like business partners living together in the same house. In fact, those high walls held deep secrets that could make even demons tremble and pay homage to Dapia and his wife Boma. The couple had a special boarding school where young girls within the ages of 14 and 19 were kept like chickens, kept in a cage to lay eggs. To the outside world, it was a normal, all-girls boarding school where less privileged girls were given the opportunity to go to a good school and become better in the future. But inside, something dark and evil happened every day. The boarding school was not for teaching the girls how to read or write. No. The girls were never taught. Rather, they were taught how to make babies. The girls were deceived by Boma's sweet mouth and gentle smiles, under false pretense of going to a good private school. And immediately the girls entered the school. Boom. They were never allowed to leave. No breaks, no holidays. It was like prison without the physical prison bars. The first girl Boma ever took to the boarding school was a beautiful 16-year-old girl named Ino. She was a very hardworking girl from Ogoja in Cross River State. She was working as a sales girl for a woman who sold pepper rice close to Boma's Women Empowerment Center. Ino was an orphan who had 3 younger siblings back at home. Boma observed Ino for months and gave her free food and pocket money every day, as she was so kind to the poor girl. And Ino trusted Boma. After all, she was the big popular woman on TV who helped the poor. Ino felt privileged that Boma even took notice of her. Then one day, Boma approached Ino and told her about the special boarding school where she could go to school and get a good job after graduating, to help her get a brighter future. Ino, unsuspecting of Boma's evil intention, was very happy to hear the news. Her madam never sent her to school. She had to work at the restaurant from dawn to dusk with peanut salary and harsh treatment. Ino saw what Boma told her as a golden opportunity to get a better life for herself. After all, thousands of women had benefited from Boma's Women's Empowerment Service. Without much thought, she agreed to follow Boma to the special boarding school without even informing her madam. Boma first took her to a special house with big TV, the kind Ino had never seen before. The house had everything. Big bed and so many housemaid, it was like a 5-star hotel. Boma gave Ino a new clothes and shoes. She ate the best of meals in the house, and she was even given pocket money to send to her younger siblings at home. Ino felt like her life was finally starting to make sense, after all the years of suffering. Everything was going well, until one day, Madam Boma informed her that it was time to resume school. She told Ino to pack her clothes that she was going to enroll her in her special boarding school. That was how Ino found herself in the strange school. As soon as she stepped into the school compound, she saw another side of Boma. The side that was hidden behind a mask from the public. But it was too late. She couldn't leave. She couldn't escape. The entire place was guarded by heavy security. Ino was limited to the walls of the boarding school. Her hope was gone, her dreams crushed, her innocence taken away. And she has had 2 children since Bomas lured her there. But each time, her babies were always taken away before she even saw their faces. And she was stuck there in that prison with no hope of escape, praying every day for a miracle. The next girl Boma lured into the school with empty promises was a girl named Chisholm, a 17-year-old girl who Boma picked up from an orphanage home. She told the orphanage proprietor that she was sending Chisholm to her private boarding school where she would learn alongside with children from rich families and get a better life after graduating. And the proprietor who trusted Boma gave Chisholm away. Not too much questions asked, not too much drama. After all, everybody knew Boma was a godly woman, and she was the sole sponsor of the orphanage. That was how Chisholm found herself in the school too. The next girl was Amina, a Fulani girl from Kano State, and Queen and Ayamide, and all the other girls who were deceived by Boma and Dapia. In a few years, the school had a total of over 200 girls in attendance. Parents who were struggling to send their daughters to school were even praying for their daughters to be picked to attend that prestigious school. If only they knew, Boma never picked girls with parents. She picked orphans and young girls far from home. As the years passed, the school started gaining more fame. More girls were lured there. Some were even kidnapped and brought there. And the baby supplies kept increasing more than ever. So was Boma and Dapia's wealth and fame was increasing on a steady, and they got more powerful, more popular. They opened more women empowerment services and training centers to the public, and their cupboard kept sealed up with so many cobwebs and dark secrets kept hidden. But, accordingly to the saying, many days for the thief, one day for the owner. One night, Joy and Rejoice sneak out of their parents' mansion to attend a house party that their boyfriends invited them to. Dapia and Boma were fast asleep, unaware to the fact that their precious daughters were out partying. When they got outside their gates, their boyfriend picked them up with a car, and they all went to the party together. That night, they danced and drank until their head began to spin. They had a good time of their lives having fun. But something happened that night. Their boyfriend added strange pills to their drink that made them lose their senses. And eventually they lose consciousness, and the bad boys carried the girls to their car. And one of them was awaiting outside the club, and the boys entered their car and sped off into the night, to an unknown destination. Allegedly, the boys work for Boma, and their job was to deceive young girls and lure them to the boarding school. Unbeknownst to them that Joy and Rejoice were Boma's daughters. By the time the girls woke up, they found themselves inside a strange, all-girls, boarding school, St. Holy Boarding School. The school that was created by their evil parents, and the girls were stuck there like the other girls and were forced to endure the hardships the other girls endured in the school. Meanwhile, back at Boma's mansion, the next morning came. Boma went to the girls' room to wake them up for school. But by the time she got to their rooms, she was met with emptiness. The girls were long gone. That day, they searched everywhere, turned the whole house upside down, but couldn't find their daughters. After hours of searching, Dapia used his connection to get the police informed, and private investigators to start a thorough search, but still yet, they found nothing. Dapia and his wife were in chaos. They thought that maybe their girls were kidnapped, but one day passed, 3 days passed, and 1 week passed, and they didn't hear anything from the girls nor their adopters. The couple hired police, army, navy, even fire brigade. But nothing worked. Their daughters were cooling off inside the hell they created for other people's children. After about 2 weeks, Boma's blood pressure went so high, and she was in panic of where our daughters might be. They invited their pastor to come and fast and pray for their daughter's safe return. Their pastor prayed and fasted, and the poor man almost fainted on top of their matter, but nothing happened. Then the couple decided to go to other sources to get solutions. Desperate times calls for desperate measures. They visited different witch doctors. They bathed in the river at night. They climbed mountain and they did different sacrifices. But nothing happened. The evil that a man does lives with him. Before you know it, 1 month passed, 3 months passed, 6 months passed, and the couple were beyond frustrated and terrified. They had started to give up, thinking that maybe their daughters were gone for real. One day, Boma received a distress call from the special boarding school. It was the head midwife in charge of the girls. "Hello, madam. Please, I don't know what to do anymore. One of the new girls that was brought in is seriously sick. We have tried all we could, but her situation is getting worse by the day," the old woman said. Boma, who was still mourning the strange disappearances of her daughter, flared up in anger. "What do you mean? Is that what I pay you millions for? Are you expecting me to come and treat her by myself? Please, I don't have time for this rubbish. If you can't treat her, leave her, let her die." Boma hung up the phone, unbeknownst to her that the sick girl at the boarding school was her own daughter Rejoice. Rejoice had asthma and had been on strict medication and diet for years. And now that she was stuck in the school without her right medications and diet, her asthma flared up, making it difficult for her to breathe or even move. Every day her life was slipping away and the midwives couldn't do anything about it, cause they didn't have the right medications. The head midwife, who couldn't bear the thought of losing another girl in the boarding school, kept calling Boma for help, for her to bring a doctor to treat the girl, but she refused. She was too busy. She tried calling the peer too to do something, but the peer yelled at the woman not to disturb him. Eventually, after 1 week of battling with her illness, Rejoice couldn't make it. She died on Joy's right arms. During evening hours, the other girls just stood by and watched with sadness on their faces. They had seen enough casualties in the school that they were no longer surprised. It was a weekly occurrence in the school. Now the school security and midwives took Rejoice's body to the back of the school and buried her in the mass grave. That they buried other unfortunate girls who died in the school. And everybody just carried on with their jobs, as if it was a chicken that died. Everybody except Joy. Joy cried bitterly day and night. Her twin sister was gone and she felt responsible for what had happened. She was the one who dragged Rejoice out of bed that night to accompany her to the party. And now Joy was no more. Meanwhile, Dapia and Boma were still meeting up with private investigators trying to figure out what exactly happened to their daughters. They had turned the entire city upside down in searching for their children, but it was like their 2 girls just vanished into thin air. Boma visited her daughter's school, friends and everybody who had close contact with the girls, but they always come back with heartbreaking disappointment. One day, exactly 1 month after Rejoice's death, Boma drove down to the school with a black SUV, escorted by heavy security. It was that time of the month. She came to the school to supervise the activities in the school, to check on the girls, and take the newborns away for her business. The day started like any other day for the past couple of years. The girls were all arranged in a large classroom for the inspection to begin. That day, Boma walked into the classroom with authority, and she scanned through the room, using her eyes to do head counts for the girls. But suddenly, a voice called out from the crowd of girls. "Mommy, Mommy." Boma turned sharply to locate the source of that voice that sounded like her daughter's voice. And then her eyes landed on Joy, her daughter that she had turned the entire city of Yenagoa upside down for. Boma staggered back in shock and she almost collapsed. But how? How did she end up in this mess? Different thoughts ran through her head by second, and she was shaking to her core. Guilt consumed her. Her own daughter had fallen into the trap she set for other people's children. Boma couldn't continue with the inspection. She ran out of the classroom in tears, and couldn't even bring herself to look Joy in the eyes for what she had done that day. The security escorted Joy into their car and they all left the boarding school. Boma cried all through, before they drive home. She was blaming herself for her greed and wickedness to open that school, and now it had ultimately ruined her own life, and her children's life. When they arrived at their mansion, Boma informed her husband about everything that had happened in the school, and he was shocked to his bones. Joy, how did you end up there? Where is your sister? Dappierre asked with tears streaming down his face. Daddy, Mommy, we went for a house party months ago, and the next morning, we found ourselves in that school with the other girls. Rejoice got sick while we were there, and they couldn't treat her. She suffered from her asthma for days before she passed away. Goosebumps broke out of Dapierre and Boma's skin, hearing their daughter's words. It was then they realized that Rejoice was the girl the midwife was talking about. A few weeks ago, the couple collapsed on the floor crying bitterly as they regretted their lives. Mommy, what were you doing in that school? Why are those girls there? Why are they keeping girls in that school? Let's report to the police. Mommy, Joy said. But Dapierre and Boma couldn't say anything. They just stared at their daughter's eyes with fear. Still shaken by the revelation of the day, the family cried bitterly. But Dapierre and Boma cried even more because of her guilt. They never thought in their wildest dream that this calamity would befall them. Their greed have led them to destroy their own children. Many dark nights, Joy couldn't sleep. She laid in bed thinking about the other girls still stuck in the school. She thought about her parents, and how they avoided her questions earlier. She couldn't help, but she felt that her parents were deeply involved in the activities that's happening in that school. That night, Joy made up her mind not to keep quiet, now that she had been rescued. She vowed to rescue the other girls, too. The next morning, Joy left the house and took a taxi straight to the police headquarters to report all she went through at that evil school. At first, they didn't believe her. But when she showed them that she was Dapierre and Boma's daughter, they gave her a seat and listened to all she had to say. That day, Joy recounted all she saw, all she heard and experienced in the school. When the DPO asked her if she would be able to locate the school, Joy said yes. She had memorized every route they took the day her mother brought her back home. That day, the police DPO called his superior and informed them of a possible trafficking case going on right under their territory, in the city, and the superiors gave him full authority to mobilize men and raid the suspected location. Joy followed the policemen, and they all went to St. Holy Girls' College. And when they raided the school, they were shocked to find out that it wasn't a boarding school at all. It was a factory for making babies. That day, the policemen arrested the security guards, the midwives, and loaded the girls into coaster buses, and the girls were taken straight to the hospital. In a few hours, the news outlet and social media had picked the news, publishing it over the internet for the masses to know what have been happening inside the boarding school. And people were shocked and terrified when they heard of the news that spread throughout the entire city. The policemen closed down the school that same day and took the school staff to the headquarters for questioning. When they got to the police station, they all confessed their crimes. They told the police that they were paid ransomly to run the school secretly. They confessed that it was Dapierre and Bomas who hired them for the job and they have been working there for years. The news of the evil boarding school spread like wildfire throughout the city. And when Dapierre and his wife saw that their cover has been blown, they tried to flee from the country. But the police in conjunction with the immigration caught them at the airport and they dragged them to the police station to face the full wrath of the law for their crimes. The interrogation was tough. Dapierre and Bomas denied their involvement at first, but after weeks of the police investigating, they discovered more proof and evidence, and other bad sinister activities, that the peer and his wife were doing, secretly. Eventually, Bomas broke down under the intense investigation and the proof the police have gotten. She couldn't deny anymore. She went ahead and confessed all their crimes. She told the police officers that she lured young girls into the school under false pretense, and the midwives inseminated them for them to get pregnant. And after the girls put to bed, the babies were taken away and they sold them for millions of naira to hospitals and fertility clinics, to couples who couldn't have their own children. Boma confessed that they also used their NGO's women empowerment and training centers as cover-up in doing money laundry for their rich clients. Her confession was broadcast live and the entire country saw it and people were terrified. Dapia, who previously denied all allegation, was embarrassed by Boma's confession and he eventually agreed to the police, to what his wife confessed. The couple and the evil staff were all sentenced to life imprisonment with hard labor. The girls were put into group therapy to help them recover and adjust to life outside bondage. The government gave all the victims full scholarship. And other wealthy people and big charity organizations around the country helped the victims with accommodation and feeding, and they helped them to become useful to themselves and the society. The government shut down the clinic where the children were sold to, and the police seized Dapia and Boma's assets and liquidated most for public fund. A special task force was set up to uproot and eliminate any threats like Dapia and Boma's from the society for good. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this story. What do you think of the story? This is not a fictional story. It's a real-life event that has happened somewhere, and it still happens even till today. Protect your children and be careful who you trust your children with. As the heart of some men is desperately wicked to all our young girls, we should always listen to our parents and guidance, as it is not safe out there. The world is very wicked. What do you think of this story? What morals have you learned from this story? Let me know in the comment section below. Give this video a thumbs up if you haven't done so by now. Subscribe to our channel if you haven't done so by now. Share this video with your friends and family to learn a lesson or two. Have a blessed day out there.